This is, in my opinion, one of the coolest weapon designs in the game. Now, to build this weapon, I actually have to guide you first on how to get this weapon, because this is a missable weapon. You can miss this weapon. So before we actually get into the build, let's actually talk about that. This is kind of like a really self-explanatory quest line. You don't really have to gather items, you just have to talk to certain NPCs on certain parts of the story, but it is, like I mentioned, a missable weapon. The first place where we're going to go is going to be the Snowy Passage. Now theoretically, you could actually start at Hill Watch, because from here, from the Snowy Passage, we're actually backtracking because the NPC that we want, it's down there. I just like to take this one particularly right in here because it's easier to get to this particular NPC by going this route. Just have in mind that there's a couple of enemies that are going to be chasing you down. No, not much of an issue because they can't attack the NPCs, but this is the first time that you're going to find them. You just have to talk to them right in here. Next place we're going to find them, it's going to be at Mount Shenwu, on the Shenwu antechamber. He will be sitting right in here. It's very difficult for you to miss him. It's just going to be right in here. Now, next location is going to be on the ferry overlook right in here. I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Just have in mind that you have to come to this location, but this is where you can actually miss the weapon, because on the way in here you're going to arrive from there. There's a cave and there's an NPC before entering the cave that it is going to ask you to take you to the next chapter of the story. He's going to tell you that he's going to take you to a different place. You have to refuse that and go directly straight to the cave. Don't worry, you can always go back to the cave to continue the story. Instead, we're going to traverse the cave and then we're going to go down in here. This is the final location where we are going to find the NPC, and the NPC, there's like not going to be any enemies at all right in here. There's going to be one NPC right here, and the one that we're actually looking for, it's going to be here. Talk to them and you have to wait until they leave. So just reload the area or rest or do something. He's going to drop this sword right in here. So now let's actually talk about the sword, because it is a very interesting sword. I'd say that personally I find that there's like better weapons when it comes to the sword. As a matter of fact, we have made better builds out of the swords. They are very powerful, but the one thing that I like about this is that there's versatility. There's a couple of things that we need to have in mind with that versatility as well. The thing is that this is a feathering weapon. This is the one and only, I believe, longsword that scales out of feathering. And we're going to be raising the feathering to the maximum level for this particular build. Meaning that we can also use feathering spells to our advantage if we so desire to. What's the problem? While it is fast, you can get a Skyborn Might or feathering fast while using a longsword. It's usually like a dance of I get those points and then I use them to actually use the skill of the weapon. And what I'm trying to get in here is that a feathering build with a longsword is not going to be as good as a feathering build would be with a regular straight sword that also has spell power, increases the spell power. Not that the spells are going to not deal that much damage, but yeah, you don't have that much of a sustainability as the longsword does. However, the one thing that you do need to have in mind is that if you want to have the extra option, that's like an extra something on your arsenal that you can have. And if you're also going to New Game Plus and you have the resources to upgrade 2 different weapon types to plus 10, because in the first playthrough, at least I that explored everything in my first playthrough, or in a single playthrough, I didn't manage to encounter as many upgrade materials to upgrade 2 weapon types, so I didn't actually have enough weapon materials to upgrade until the second run. So yeah, that's like a concession that you need to make. But as you can see right in here, it's very powerful. The actual weapon skill, that's where we're focusing on in here, and there's lots of things that are going to increase our damage that much more because of feathering. Feathering is very powerful in this game because of raw power on itself more than anything. The only downside that I see about this weapon is that the weapon skill requires 2 Skyborn Mights for you to cast it. but it is going to stagger, and I mean stagger is going to basically knock down enemies, as you can see right in here as well. You can take advantage of this situation right now to continue the combo, get more Skyward Might, rinse and repeat, but we'll get into the combo into the until the later stages of the video or the end of the video. That said, let's actually talk about the stats that we're going to be focusing on. The one thing, so with this particular build, we're going to be focusing on getting as much damage, survivability, and utility for everything as much as we can, taking advantage of the soft caps and hard caps that the game has to offer. So you'll notice that I have still 31 Mercury Essence right off that. My level slightly 140. So what this means is that essentially this build you're going to be able to achieve it on level 100, which is ideally the level that you are going to get on one single playthrough of the game. So this is how you should be looking on a single playthrough of the game. And there's a couple of things that you do need to have in mind in here that are going to change how you level up progressively depending that you're doing a new playthrough. Remember that we have soft caps on level 25 and hard caps on level 50, so that's ideally the actual stats that we're trying to achieve when it comes to agility and feathering that are going to be our maximum high damaging dealing stats. You can, by all means, go beyond the hard cap if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to level up more and you have already reached those hard caps, then you can, by all means, take more feathering right in here from the longsword, but it's really not necessary. That being said, having that in mind, the first thing that you want to do as soon as you start your playthrough is try to get some levels into the sword category, because you want to have at least one strong blade. This is going to allow you to raise your weapon to +3. That should be like enough time for you to explore and level up to raise your left portion in here. By leveling this right in here, this is enough, more than enough for you to get your feathering to 50, which is the hard cap. This is the only feathering that you need. Also take the one from in here. This is going to allow you to have 50 feathering, which then again, it's the hard cap. There's a couple of things that you can take as well in here if you want to use spells. I am taking the Impact and the Skyward Resilience, because then again, like I mentioned, feathering, it's an option. It's not like the strongest tool in this build. The strongest tool in this build is just going to be natively the weapon, but if you want to take it, it is there for you to take it and for you to use it and for you to take advantage of it. That said, once you have managed to get that, the next thing that you are going to want to do is go into the sword category and start leveling up and try to get as much agility as you can possibly do. So that's why I'm taking this left route right in here, but I also want to take vitality. The reason for that being is that we want to focus on agility, but take as less strength as you can possibly take. You are going to take some cheap strength. The problem with the strength is that this weapon does not scale with strength at all. We have taken cheap points, 10 points into strength that are going to go to waste, but more than anything, focus on agility, endurance, and vitality. Agility, endurance, and vitality. All this path right in here is going to give you agility, endurance, and vitality. You will see that I'm doing my best to avoid all of these strength points right in here because I am not going to need them. However, I do want to take the vitality from here, and I did want to take the vitality from in here and one level into feathering that it was just the only level that I was missing to have my feathering on 43 plus the 7 that is going to be the 50 on the hard cap of it. At this point, you should be on the mid game. At this point, you should already be established on the maximum level of your feathering. And then what you're going to want to do is go into the daggers route, the dual blades route, because this is what's going to allow you to raise your agility all the way to 42. We already have 8 agility, 8 plus 42, that's 50 agility. That's the hard cap that we reached right in there, and we are taking as much vitality. You will see that we have managed to reach the hard cap for vitality as well as for endurance. So basically the character as it is right in here, it's established for the end game. One more thing to have in mind is that a lot of this is like you can use the other builds that I have posted on the channel while you are doing like a new playthrough, or if you're in New Game Plus, then you can just basically copy paste this, because this is a weapon that you're going to get like until quite literally you finish like the end of chapter 3. You can still use it for chapter 4 and 5, but yeah, it's a very late weapon. On acupuncture, very basic stuff. We have feathering, increased damage in here. We have the Everlight Stone Needle, which is increases the duration of the tempering, and then we have the Plume Stone Needle, which is increases the attack power of the tempering, and then finally we have the Leech, because I like to have Leech, and we actually also have lots of different healing sources, like for example, on the, I forgot to mention, on the Impetus Repository, we do have the Health Siphon that heals us every time that we use a final strike of a light attack combo that can be chained by using the actual weapon skill that we have right in here. Now, I'd say that one of the most important things that I always use in my builds, it's the Benedictions, anything that gives you Skyborn Might. Because anything that gives you Skyborn Might, your focus should always, at all times, 100% of the time, be trying to get Skyborn Might. So reduce damage for a time, healing for a time, and increase damage during Skyborn Might, then that's amazing, that's ideal. We'll actually dive into how is this going to work once we talk about the combos. But then the actual pendants that we're using right in here increase the healing effects, potency effects, it's very nice. And then we have the Crimson Pendant, this basically self-explanatory, increase the weapon's feathering damage. And then we have the Tiger Pendant, increase the potency of your weapon's physical attacks. So yeah, you're basically focusing on physical damage at all times. So what's the playstyle? How does this work? Pretty basic. You basically, the weapon, the longsword, gives you 1 Skyborn Might every time that you do a 2 light attacks combo. The second one is going to be a 3rd input. So ideally what I like to use more often than not, it's 2 light attacks, dodge, 2 light attacks, and then weapon skill, rinse and repeat. 2 light attacks, dodge, 2 light attacks, and then the weapon skill. Then again, remember that I like to use the dodge because for you to get a 2nd Skyborn Might is going to require 3 inputs of you continuing the damage and the animation. It's not just because of the inputs, it's actually longer. The combo is longer. Right in here, you're basically reducing the amount of time that you need to get the Skyborn Might. Usually, more often than not, this is going to stagger or knock down bosses or enemies. When that happens, you get 2 free light attacks, and then you can dodge, and then light attacks, and then rinse and repeat. Sometimes the enemies are going to gain some type of resistance to it, to the knockback, but it is still going to stun them for a little while. So that is a dance that you can continue back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This is also very amazing for exploration, especially when you have enemies mobbing you, because while you're doing exploration, this AoE damage. And you do have to have in mind that this is 2 strikes, it's just not 1. You have the actual blade of the weapon hitting the enemy and the shockwave that it plunges in front of you. So if you manage to land both of them, that's going to be dealing much more damage. But the cool thing about this build also is that what you have to have in mind as well is that it gives you the chance to have the highest amount of feathering possible, and while you do not have a weapon that has spell power to increase the damage of the feathering skills, you do still have the scaling, the native scaling, because that's something that happens. Every single spell has a native scaling on itself. It is going to increase its damage if you're using it with a sword, but that does not mean that you cannot use some very high damaging feathering spells if you so desire to, because you have the maximum amount of feathering. So you have 2 weapons in your arsenal right in here. If you like the content, like and super appreciate it, and also you that you're a gorgeous, beautiful person, you're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person, subscribe to the channel, get in Discord, have a beautiful day, and goodbye.